Thousands of residents venture out of the city for the long holiday. But many decide to stay in town for the local attractions. Hello, welcome to TVB News. With the Easter holidays underway, many Hong Kong citizens chose to venture out of town for vacation, especially to the mainland. As of 4 p.m. today, more than 770,000 arrivals and departures were recorded, of which nearly 630,000 residents traveled out of the city. And Lo Wu, Lok Mai Chau Spur Line and Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge were the busiest border crossings. Many residents started their vacation by public transport in the morning. Holidaymakers took the East Rail Line bound for Lo Wu or Lok Mai Chau. Trains filled to the brim. At Fanling and Sheng Shui stations, it's even harder to board the train. Train frequency has been stepped up with trains running at 3-minute intervals, but many passengers still struggle to board. The MTR appeals to passengers to set aside more commute time and consider using other less busy control points. At the Heng Yuen Wai border crossing, a similar bustling sight. At the bus stop outside Fanling Station, a winding queue of people stretches across hundreds of meters. Bus services have also increased frequency with more additional staff dispatched to direct passengers. Less crowd meanwhile at the Lok Mai Chau Huanggang port. But the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge also saw a long queue for the cross-border shuttle buses, also known as a gold bus. Another long wait to get into the departure hall. Some had lunch while they queued. It's not just the passengers, a long line too for buses to file into the station. Ms. Chan here says such long lines are unbelievable, and she's never seen such crowds before at the border crossing. Even when you cross the bridge, another traffic snarl up before the Zhuhai port. As for the Shenzhen Bay Bridge, the northbound traffic was as busy in the morning. The crowds at border crossings not abated in the afternoon. Some at Lo Wu Station decided to stay in Hong Kong after seeing the thronging crowds. The Transport Department and the Immigration Department appealed to members of the public to plan their journeys as early as possible to allow sufficient traveling time. Some citizens prefer to take longer trips abroad during the long holidays. This as the Easter holiday continues through Monday and the Qingming Festival falls on Thursday. Many local workers can enjoy 10 consecutive days of holidays if they request 3 more days off in between. Among those making the most out of the long break is this family. They say they are spending half a month in Australia. Some families also plan to spend a long holiday in other mainland cities. At a high-speed rail station in West Kowloon, Ms. Wang here said her family is heading to Fujian, where food and entertainment are both cheaper than Hong Kong. Many residents decided to spend the public holiday in Hong Kong. Crowds and traffic were seen in Tsim Sha Tsui this afternoon as tourists joined many locals on the streets. Mimo Zangai reports.
This was the scene on Canton Road on the first day of the Easter holiday. Traffic congestion. Many drivers did not plan to travel anywhere far in their cars. Instead, they shared one goal: to get a car park space in a nearby shopping mall, where a 5-hour free parking promotion was launched for the holiday. However, patience is required for people to enjoy such a discount. Some drivers said they have been waiting in the line for around 30 minutes.
For me, it's acceptable. Like the weekends are always like that. Just for a visit, with my family, just look around and stuff.
This father, who brought his children to the mall for an event, said he only knew about the free parking promotion after he had arrived in Tsim Sha Tsui. He said he does not mind waiting. It's all right because you can get 5 hours of free parking, he explained. The father added the family will spend their evening in the mall and will travel to the mainland the next day. For residents who did not drive, taking a stroll in the Tsim Sha Tsui area allowed them to experience the holiday mood.
It's good. I think the buzz is back out. I think it's quite good. I think more and more people are coming back to Hong Kong, which is good, more positive.
We wanted to look at the Van Gogh exhibition. After COVID, Hong Kong, is back to its normality. So I think it's important for Hong Kong to go back to the way it used to be.
Free rides on the staff area are also available today. This woman said the free ride is practical because they can incentivize the public to travel more on the day. News 9, TVB News.
Public hospitals were packed with patients on the first day of the Easter holidays. The waiting time at accident and emergency departments in multiple public hospitals were lengthy today. For廣東話 hospital patients, the waiting time was more than 8 hours at around 10:30 a.m. The hospital authorities said influenza cases remain active, while a family doctor warned more COVID cases will appear after the holiday. In Taiwan, 2 people died from food poisoning after dining at a vegetarian restaurant chain. An autopsy result found pancreatic acid in the victims' bodies. That's a type of toxin that's produced from fermented food. The 2 fatalities were among 21 people who reported having experienced food poisoning after eating rice noodles at Polam Kopitiam. The restaurant's managers have been taken away by Taiwan authorities to assist with investigations. The restaurant has been fined 2.5 million new Taiwan dollars for violating food safety regulations. It marks the first ever detection of the rare toxin on the island. Doctors said the mortality rate after being poisoned by this toxin could be as high as 40%. The 4-day Boao Forum for Asia concluded in Hainan today. The Boao Forum for Asia Secretary General Li Baodong said the event has achieved a series of objectives, such as methods to promote energy conservation and the reduction of emissions. Li also said different sectors at the conference understand the importance of solidarity and cooperation when it comes to challenges. He added China will continue to be the largest contributor to world economic growth. Former U.S. Presidents Barack Obama and Bill Clinton teamed up on Thursday night to deliver a rousing New York embrace of President Joe Biden. The event attracted a record-setting $26 million for his re-election campaign. During their conversation, Obama and Clinton explained just how hard President Biden's job is. They spoke of loneliness and frustration over policies that are not immediately felt by the public. They gave an insider's view of the office as they sought to explain why Biden was best for the job. Obama praised Biden's willingness to look for common ground and said, "That's the kind of president I want." Clinton said, "Stay with what works." Biden himself went straight at Donald Trump, saying his expected Republican rival's ideas were a little old and out of shape. The fundraising event was a major show of Democratic support for Biden at a time of persistently low poll numbers. The U.S. state of Maryland is still reeling from Tuesday's tragedy in which a giant container ship crashed into a pillar of the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore, causing it to collapse. 2 bodies were recovered from the water while 4 others are missing. The Biden administration has approved $60 million in immediate federal aid. Nasri Karim with more.
U.S. safety officers on board the Dali cargo ship trying to find out what caused Tuesday's tragedy. Making their way through twisted metal and concrete, officers from the National Transportation Safety Board want to know what went wrong when the 95,000-ton vessel lost power and crashed into the pillar of a bridge, causing it to collapse into the water. The tricky area of waterway requires expert skills, with specially trained pilots usually taking over from the captain just for this piece of navigation. Reports say the 2 pilots could not have done more to prevent the tragedy. Just before the crash, the lead pilot dropped anchor, issued steering commands and made a mayday call. That prompted authorities to close the bridge to traffic, possibly preventing more deaths. 8 construction workers were filling potholes on the bridge when the crash happened. 2 were rescued soon afterwards. 2 bodies were recovered while 4 others are missing, presumed dead. Maryland Governor Wes Moore said the bridge will be rebuilt, but expect a long road ahead.
We need every single Baltimorean and we need every single Marylander to join us in this work to rebuild this bridge and rebuild this city. The best minds in the world are coming together to collect the information that we need to move forward with speed and safety in our response to this collapse.
The Dali had a crew of 21, 20 from India, one of whom was slightly injured. The collapse of the bridge is also expected to have a major economic impact on the region after authorities shut down the port of Baltimore until further notice. U.S. carmaker Ford said its supply chain will be affected with the company forced to divert parts to other ports. The Port of Baltimore is the busiest U.S. port for car shipments, handling at least 75,000 vehicles in 2023. Besides cars, analysts expect commodities such as coal and sugar to be affected, triggering supply disruptions along the U.S. northeastern coast. Nazvi Karim, TVB News.
The top United Nations court in The Hague, the International Court of Justice, said Israel must open more land crossings into Gaza for food, water, fuel, and other supplies. This as the Israeli military said it is continuing to conduct operational activity at the Sheba hospital in northern Gaza, while also trying to prevent casualties among civilians and medical teams. The IDF said that over the previous day, its troops had eliminated Palestinian fighters, located weapons and terrorist infrastructure in the area. Hamas denies using Shifa Hospital as a base and say the hundreds arrested and killed were civilians. Meanwhile, in Ireland, Deputy Prime Minister Michael Martin and the EU's Crisis Manager Commissioner Janice Lenarchich called on Israel to facilitate the entry of humanitarian aid into Gaza.
To feed the entire population.
And today is Good Friday. Christians around the world have been observing the Holy Week ahead of this weekend's Easter celebrations. Danny Rao tells us more.
In Rome, Pope Francis washed and kissed the feet of 12 female inmates at a prison during a Holy Thursday ritual meant to emphasize his vocation of service and humility. The 87-year-old Francis performs the ritual from his wheelchair. The Holy's foot washing ceremony is a hallmark of every Holy Week and recalls the foot washing Jesus performed on his 12 apostles at their Last Supper before he was crucified. Francis has travelled each year to a prison, refugee centre or youth detention facility to emphasise his belief that a priest's vocation is to serve. The Pope earlier presided over a long Mass at St. Peter's Basilica. On Friday, the Pope is due to travel at night to the Colosseum for the Way of the Cross procession, reenacting Christ's crucifixion. In Britain, King Charles stressed the importance of friendship and acts of caring in a recorded message delivered to a traditional pre-Easter church service. The monarch, however, skipped the service as he continues to undergo cancer treatment.
This act of worship here in Worcester Cathedral reminds me of the pledge I made at the beginning of the coronation service, to follow Christ's example, not to be served, but to serve. That I have always tried to do and continue to do with my whole heart. May God bless you all this Easter.
Queen Camilla represented her husband during the Royal Maundy service at Worcester Cathedral. The event is held every year on the Thursday before Easter, known as Maundy Thursday in Britain. The service, which dates back to the year 600, commemorates the Last Supper when Jesus washed the feet of his disciples as an act of service and humility. Sovereigns no longer wash the feet of the needy as they did in medieval times. Instead, Camilla presented purses filled with special coins known as Maundy money to 75 women and 75 men, a number dictated by the king's age. In predominantly Catholic Spain, one of the most iconic events of Holy Week in the city of Malaga is the transfer of a statue of Jesus Christ by the Spanish Legion, an elite unit of the country's armed forces. The ceremony begins on Maundy Thursday with the Legionnaires arriving at the port of Malaga, followed by the procession of Christ of the Good Death, their patron saint. During the procession, the troops sang El Novio de la Muerte, or the Bridegroom of Death. In Australia, worshippers gathered at Sydney's Roman Catholic St. Patrick's Cathedral for Good Friday, which commemorates Jesus Christ's crucifixion and death. Archbishop Vincent Long Van Nguyen led the ceremony with the Stations of the Cross procession. Dan Raul, TVB News.
As volcanic eruptions continue in Iceland, a time-lapse video has captured the famous northern lights in the background. The volcano in southwestern Iceland has erupted several times so far this year and continues to send orange jets of lava and smoke into the sky. The eruption site is a few kilometers northeast of Grindavik, a coastal town of 3,800 people about 50 kilometers southwest of Iceland's capital, Reykjavik. The area was evacuated in December after the initial eruption. In the weeks since the eruption, defensive walls have been built around the town, the geothermal power plant and the Blue Lagoon tourist attractions, in hopes of directing lava away from the community. And that's the news. Thank you for watching.